The next thing is think about what you're going to say if you're asked questions. If the police ask you where you're coming from, think about what your answer to that question is going to be. Think about it before you start driving. If the police ask you if you've been drinking, think about how you're going to answer that if you have been. The wisest thing, of course, is not to drink and drive at all, but if you have been, think about how you're going to answer that question. Another common question is there anything in the car that I should know about, meaning that the cop should know about? It's probably best for you that he doesn't know about anything in your car, especially if it's something that you want to hide. So think about how you're going to answer those what they call the threshold questions at the beginning of a police encounter. I know you've probably got a plan, Bruce, for if they stop you, what you...
Yeah, right. Sure I do. Now, once they stop you, they have the right to inspect the car, don't they?
Well, it depends what you mean by inspect.
I'm being stopped now. Pull over, right? Give me your license and registration, okay?
Yep, you've got those ready because we've talked about that. You've got them ready.
Yeah, I keep my license in my wallet, by the way. I don't put it in the glove compartment.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to jump ahead.
No, it's okay.
So he says, I got to look in your car. Can he do that?
He has to ask you to look in your car, or he has to have probable cause to look in your car. They can't just start rummaging around, although it's done all the time.
Yep.
There has to be something else, like an odor of alcohol or something that would give him probable cause to start, or reasonable suspicion to start asking you some questions. It looks like you got somebody on the line here, Bruce.
Yes, you do. Go to the phone again, please. Good morning.
Mr. Noel, good morning.
Yes, Noel.
Good morning.
You know, if I am stopped because I don't have a sticker or my license expire, I have the right to be fined because it's my fault. But if I have a light missing in the back, a brake light, how can you, if you live alone, how can you check your brake light when you drive?
That's a great idea. That's a great question. You can't check it while you're driving, but you can check it periodically between inspections. Most places that do oil changes or places like that are willing to check that for you. But all you got to do is just turn it on and just ask somebody to, even with your plate light, you can actually put the car in park and go out and look and see if it's on.
Yeah, because my cousin lives alone. He's an old bachelor.
Yeah.
He has no friend, and he got tagged last week for the brake light. And I said, it's not fair because you live alone.
Oh, the brake light, yeah.
Really, you know, I don't care. One time I park illegally in front of a fire hydrant. I said, it's raining. They're not going to see me when it's raining. You know, and I got a tag. I paid for it.
Right.
Another time I got a tag because I parked there was an handicap parking, but the sign was inside of the tree, so I could not see it. I took a picture of the tree with the sign, and I won my case.
Wow.
But if I am negligent on my sticker or my license, first of all, I would never drive without my license being okay. Or, you know, like we have moral and characters, and the kids today don't have that.
Well, some people don't realize that the license has expired just through oversight. Most people are not out there driving around on purpose trying to avoid the relicensing fee. But the reason I like to remind people about it is because they're busy, they forget, and they don't remember it until they're stopped, and that embarrassing moment comes when the cop tells them that the license is expired. You know.
But you ever read the paper and you say the guy says stop without license, with no registration? I mean, he knows he has no license. He knows the car isn't registered or different license. I mean, you have to have nerves to do that. I'd be scared.
Sure, and some of it is economically driven too. They just don't have the money to get the car re-registered. The economy's tough, and there are a lot of economy-driven offenses like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
okay, I'm glad I called you guys.
I'm glad you called too. Thanks for calling. Have a good day.
Yes. Now get back to the license.
Let me get back to your license and your wallet, Bruce.
Yeah.
Lots of wallets are pretty congested. They're crowded and they're cluttered with stuff. You want to look at how quickly you can get that license out of the wallet without it sticking, because what the police are going to describe that as is you were fumbling and you had bad dexterity when you went to produce your license. Okay, it gets stuck in there pretty easy because they're meant to fit in there kind of tight. You usually don't. Hopefully, you don't have to take them out much, because if you do, it means you're getting stopped all the time.
You're right.
But have it somewhere that's really easy to slide in and out. And it's best to have it sometimes in a separate spot, right with the registration. So you've got those two things ready, and that takes away the first complaint that they usually have about you when they're writing up their report, if you do end up, unfortunately, getting arrested. So you can make your cases better and sometimes avoid cases, catching a case by having these things ready. Another thing you want to watch out for is if you have passengers in your car, if you're giving people a ride, you want to make sure that you know them pretty well and make sure that they don't have anything on them that the police might be interested in, because sometimes in New Hampshire we have cases where the passengers have drugs on them and the driver gets charged with transporting drugs.
Oh.
Yeah, even though they didn't know that they were in the person's pocket. You know, there's no mens rea or knowing element to that offense. So, you know, if you're driving or you pick up someone hitchhiking and he's got a bag of weed, you're going to get stunk for it too, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important not to give people rides unless you know what's in their pockets. Another thing to be aware of that catches people unaware a lot is prescription medications. If you have prescription medications and you have them in your car or on your person, you have to have them in the original container. You can't have them in one of these Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday type things where you just put the pills that you take every day, even if they're legally prescribed by a doctor for a legitimate reason. If the cops catch you with those pills in a bag or in in your glove box console, something like that, and they're not in the original prescription container, it's actually a felony. So you could be branded as a felon for taking your own prescription medications. Yeah, it's crazy.
So it has to be in the original box?
Yeah, it's got to be in the original bottle with the federal number on it and all that. So watch out for that one, because that one is something that really sneaks up on law-abiding people all the time. And a final topic I want to touch on is there's a new push on with the police to catch people for DUI drugs. Okay, these are people who haven't drunk anything, and they're allegedly under the influence of either an illegal drug or a controlled prescription drug. And sometimes this even involves cases where people are just taking their own medicine, their own prescription. They're not drinking. They're driving perfectly normally. They're stopped for some reason, and the police begin an interrogation about, have you taken any drugs? You want to think about how you answer that question very, very carefully, because if the police ask you if you've taken any prescription drugs, they have a suspicion already, and you can just bang a nail into the coffin and get arrested by saying, yeah, I took Vicodin for pain, it's prescribed to me. They'll ask you how many you took, and the next thing you know, you're getting arrested for DWI drugs.
Wow.
So it's never good to lie to the police. You don't ever want to lie to anyone. It's not a nice thing to do, but you don't have to tell them your life story. You don't have to tell them your whole medical history if they start asking you questions. And just bear in mind that if they start asking you questions about drug ingestion or drug consumption, that you're probably about to get arrested. That's a scary thought, and a lot of people like to blurt out, I only took what I was prescribed, here's what it is, and there's a laundry list of controlled drugs. Lots of people today are on medication lawfully. But be careful how you're going to answer that. Talk to a lawyer before you run into that situation. If you are on medications, it's more likely than ever that you're going to be asked about it if you're stopped for any reason. Feel free to call me. My number is 603-893-0074, and I'm happy to consult with people before they're ever arrested, and hopefully they never will be, about what they would answer when they're in this scary situation of a roadblock or a police detention or a normal traffic stop, when questioning starts to get hot and heavy.
Now what happens now? Say the officer says, I want you to step out of the car now.
Yep, that's what happens next in the skit. If you tell them you've taken painkillers or anti-anxiety or whatever it might be, type of pills, they'll say, all right, why don't I just have you get out of the car and see if you're okay to drive. He's not seeing if you're okay to drive. He's about to arrest you, and now it's the evidence gathering stage. And what he's going to do is ask you to do a series of, I call them the sidewalk gymnastics, and balancing tricks and following a pen, and all of which will culminate in an arrest for DWI drugs. And the key to this is how you answer questions and whether you answer questions, because without your answers as to what you take for prescription drugs and without a blood test, it would be very hard for the police to prove if you were under the influence of a controlled drug, what it was.
Yeah.
The evidence that they gather is usually right out of the defendant's mouth in those kinds of cases. It's kind of like when they stop a person and say, if you had anything to drink, and he says 8 beers. That's a really bad answer. And Almost everybody says they only had 2. But this is something that you have to be really careful of. And again, call me if you want to talk about this. If you do take prescription medications, my number is 603-893-0074, or my cell phone is 603-785-6458. If you think you might find yourself in a situation where you have to answer those kinds of questions.
I would imagine the courts are very busy, huh?
The courts are very busy indeed. You know, there's been a lot of budget cuts in New Hampshire.
Yep.
The courts are backed up. It's very congested in court, and it's taken longer to get cases to trial, but try them we do. And if you find yourself arrested or charged with something, feel free to give me a call. My name again is Mark Stevens. My website is bybyedwi.com. That's BYEBYEDWI.com. And my telephone number again is 603-893-0074. I'm located in Salem, New Hampshire, just off exit 2.
Oh, you have to go to work, right?
I do. I thank you for having me, Bruce.
It's always a pleasure. See you next week.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody, for calling in, too.